Hey, how you doing today? I wanted to talk a little bit today about the second part of what teacher Dickon Bettinger said Sydney Banks always told his students when it came to sharing the principles. And he said, keep it simple, look within. It's a feeling, give it away. Four different things. And last week I talked a little bit about how keeping it simple looked to me. And today I want to talk a little bit about looking within. And it's been said, and maybe I've read it somewhere too, I don't know, that Sid Banks has said that you tell people to look within and they get really excited and then they don't do it. And I get that. I do get that. And there's a teaching story that I've heard, and I've heard it told in many different ways, but essentially what the story was that once upon a time, God was trying to decide where to hide humanity's divinity. And he had a meeting of the minds, as it were, and someone said, bury it down in the ground. And he said, no, humans will dig and they'll find it. And they said, well, take it to the depths of the deepest ocean. And he said, no, humans will eventually find their way there too. Well, how about to the top of the highest mountain? No, eventually, they're pretty industrious, those humans, and they'll find their way to the top of the mountain as well. And then it occurred to him, or somebody mentioned to him, um, to put it within, because that would be the last place a human would look, is within themselves. And then it was, it is done. So uh, when we talk about looking within, I think that we tend to, and I know I definitely did this, search outside ourselves to find ourselves. And don't judge me, but I love the movie Mamma Mia. And I think mostly because I like the soundtrack. But anyway, I like the movie and I've watched it, I don't know, too many times. And if you haven't watched the movie, spoiler alert, I'm going to explain a little piece that I think defines this really well. And there's a young girl by the name of Sophie, and she's getting married to a young man by the name of Sky. And apparently, there were three guys that her mother was involved with the summer she was conceived, and nobody really knows who the father is. So she had invited these men to the Greek islands where they lived to try to figure out which one of these guys was her father. And it was Pierce Brosnan and Bill Skarsgård and Colin Firth are the actors that play the dads. And she, craziness ensues through the movie. And at one point, Sophie's kind of freaking out, and she decides to tell her fiance that she has done this, that she's invited these guys. And he doesn't understand why. He doesn't understand why she's invited these guys. And she's like, I don't want to get married unless I know who my father is. I want to know who I am. And then it's interesting because the fiance says, well, knowing who your father is doesn't tell you who you are. That's not finding yourself. You find yourself by finding yourself. You knowing who you are is by finding yourself. And then he said, and the funny thing is, and I'm paraphrasing this whole thing, but he said the funny thing is that's what I was doing. I was searching for myself when I came across you. And I thought, that's what we do. We look outside of ourselves. We travel the globe. We look in books. That's what I did. I looked in books. Maybe we'll go to therapy. Maybe we'll, I don't know, ask somebody what they think about what we should do or who we are or what our life should be like. And we never find the answer, at least not a satisfactory one, because we're innocently looking in the wrong place. We're not looking within ourselves, within our own soul, within our own being, if you will. And I've heard Sid Banks say, I'm not talking within your body. And I don't really think people think within their body when they think look within. But I have heard people say look in your heart. So but I think they mean the metaphorical heart, not necessarily the actual heart. But for me, what I'm very slowly coming to realize is that looking within is kind of being in that quiet space when the snow globe is settled, when there's not a lot on your mind, and you get reflective and ideas and thoughts come to mind. And for me, that's looking within. And it's really interesting. I was watching a webinar this morning and they were talking about basically these principles are pointing to who we are before we make up the story of who we are. And that we can rely on the guidance that we find when we look within. And I can remember as a kid thinking, you know, if animals work on instinct, why don't humans work on instinct? But I think that that's exactly what the principles are pointing us to, is that we do have instinct, intuition, a deeper knowing, and that we forget that it's there. And so we go looking outside of ourselves for answers instead of getting quiet and listening to that still small voice, as they say, and waiting for an answer to come to us. But that's important. That's the crux of it, right? Getting to the point where we're listening to ourselves, not to the blah, blah, blah up here in our intellect, but more listening to the ourselves that is constant forever, quiet, knowing. And when you listen to that point, or when you listen to that part of you, it feels different. It feels resolute. It feels fearless, effortless. This is the place that we tap into when we get into the flow. You know, if you do anything artistic, or if you write, or if you play sports, or anything like that, you can get into the zone, into the flow, where you just know what to do next. You don't have to think about it. It just comes to you. It's an instinct. And that for me is part of looking within. We get so caught up in doing, do. I've got, what am I doing? What am I doing? Yesterday, I kind of took the day off to myself and just chilled, did some reading, didn't do much of anything. And there was this little voice appear that kept saying, I should be doing something. I should be doing something. But it felt right to just relax and chill out. And today I got on the computer and I started working, and now I'm doing this video, and it came much easier than it probably would have if I tried to do it yesterday, because my little blah, blah, blah was telling me what you should be doing. So I looked within, I guess you could say. I went with my instinct. I went with my gut feeling, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't matter what you call it. It's the feeling that matters. And so to me, that's what looking within means. Getting quiet, closing your eyes, just being settled, and listen to see what comes up from that place of knowing, that place of confidence, security. Yeah. That's what it means to me. I don't know what it means to you. I'd love to hear what it means to you. Or maybe if you've had a little aha moment just listening to this. If it's helpful or not helpful, I'd love to know. Other than that, my plan is to come back next week and talk about number 3, which is it's a feeling. So we'll talk a little bit about what the feeling means, because there's a difference between the feeling and feelings, as in our emotions. So I'll do my best to talk about that next week. Have a great week. Talk to you soon.